So the last 2 issues of Ninja Kaidan, get things set up and prepared so we can review the first, cover the first issue. So first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside of the story? Sure enough it does, because we have the character of Yuki, who's actually going up against his father, who is actually in the prototype suit. And yes, even though his father is a ghost in the story, it's very interesting because in this story he also gets access to a somewhat plasma blade. And I think the cover works really well with what's happening inside of the story. So for the cover, a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to show some of the internal art and also some of the things that are happening story-wise. So move into the beginning of the story. We sort of finish off where the last issue left off, we pick up where the last issue left off. And of course, he's in the armor. And of course, as things continue, we basically get a ghost in the scenario who ends up dying by basically like a rival company to the yokai headquarters that he works for. As things continue, I think I've jumped a little bit too far there. Yuki finally ends up discovering basically the plasma sword, which can be used against these spirits, and that also plays a role in not only this issue but also the next issue. And finally, as he begins to return home or return to his old home, he sees that his old man ghost, or his dad, has decided to put on the armor, get a bit of a small reunion of sorts, but he also has to cut away from his past. To which leads us into what's about to come next. So for the internal art, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. For the story, to those who follow how I do my story ratings, seeing that this is actually a new story run, this is a new story and a new run. I only can 3 sections unless the writer actually puts it into the story, say maybe a comic reference to one of the previous issues. So first things first is the area of time, and we got the area of time addressing now. Then we had the location, which was mainly the character's home, or his old home, which he grew up with in his father. We also did see some other locations, but they weren't really pointed out. The cast of characters consisting of Yuki and also Mary Beth, who's basically his wife. For the overall story rating for this, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move on to issue 5. So this issue being basically a send-off issue to this series, whether we'll get another volume or another story connected to this, I hope we do, because I really enjoyed this. As small as this story was, it's definitely got some lore, some world building that's been set in place. So now it's time to jump to the final issue. So first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? Sure enough, it does. To which in this, we can see a bit of a prototype type armor of the, or another type of armor, very similar to the Kaidan. and we do actually get to see it in the story. So for this cover rating, it's an 8 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the internal art as well as some of the things that are happening story-wise. So as we jump into the beginning of this story, it continues to pick up where it left off from. And of course, he encounters, well, some opposition. Yes, he's wielding the plasma sword, and that thing looks absolutely incredible. Sure, in some essence, it would sort of look like a lightsaber, but not really worried about it. I think it really works for the story and also works for the character as to what he goes against in the story. Of course, we see the character of Mary Beth and also somewhat the rival company looking to basically take over his operations. As we start to jump towards the middle of the story, we do get an appearance of somewhat the rival's armor and also what it can do, or this particular armor, or this prototype armor that he has access to. And it can actually do a little bit more as to what his previous armor did. And as we move towards the end of the story, we end up getting to meet somewhat one of Fingo's friends. We don't really get his name, which is really a bit of a mystery for us, the reader. But he too also gets to have a bit of a look as to how the armor actually works. Of course, we can see that there's been others who have put on the armor, and also how he gets to see the world through the armor. But the thing is this the complete end? So for the internal art, for the consistency in this story, I decided to give it an 8 out of 10. Moving into the story itself, let's now move into the key locations. Number 1 being time, which was now, and that was taking place in Rhinebeck, New York. We also ended up going to the yokai headquarters where he works, and also in Summit, New Jersey. The cast of characters consisting of Yuki and of course Mary Beth. I couldn't quite make out the other characters, though it would be nice to have, say, a better introduction as to who they actually were or what the group actually was. Are they mafia that want access to this particular armor, or are they something else? Or even a corporate mafia? Just something to give, well, the group a name, which would not hurt the story. But overall, the story rating in this, I gave an 8 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colorful and have yourself an awesome day.